Hello everybody, my name is RedBlockss and welcome back to another video. Inside of redstone contraptions, there are a lot of mini redstone contraptions, and most of the time these are absolutely vital, and learning these is pretty much absolutely essential to do large size redstone contraptions alongside smaller ones. So in today's video, we're taking a look at a lot of, well, what you will call a mini redstone contraption. And if you're curious, this is the second and the last video of this grade 2, the gadgets. Now, after this episode, we're gonna actually go into the actual redstone contraptions. I know this is really exciting because up until now, you guys are basically having smaller videos about learning stuff. Obviously, you're gonna learn stuff about big redstone contraptions, and that's actually what we're gonna get into the videos after this one. So before we get into it, there's one thing to mention in particular, because the previous video that went up on this grade, or this channel, I guess, up on this series, was absolutely mental, because that video got 100 views in its first day. Now, that is actually so good, that is actually quite questionable. So how did that happen? Now, you see, there's a couple of ways that could have happened. First of all, you guys absolutely liked that topic and thought that that would be a good topic to click on, which is absolutely, heartwarming, because that's actually the content every content creator wants to make, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it that much. Second of all, is that one of you subscribers actually shared the video. Which, if you enjoy the video and think your friends are gonna be too interested in my content, you can do that. It's up to you. And the final one, which is highly unlikely, but at the same time, I mean, we don't know, is that the aliens saw the video, shared it, and now they're coming to Earth and coming to destroy me. Anyways, we're not gonna get into that. And yeah, let's get on with this video. As per always with these videos, there's gonna be timestamps down in the description for you to check out if you want to check out any mini redstone contraptions for yourself in specific. But with that being said, let's get in with the redstone contraptions. Starting us off, you have yourself the most basic redstone contraption that can ever exist, the redstone clock. Now, the redstone clock is actually different than these clocks over here, which tell you what time of day it is. The redstone clock is basically a redstone contraption that gives off rapid redstone outputs. So if you remember a couple of episodes ago, I said that buttons give off a redstone pulse, meaning that when you activate them, they give off a redstone signal that after a certain amount of time, they actually turn back off. Now, you see, the fact with buttons is that they only give off one redstone output, and after that, you have to turn them back on again. Now, the cool thing about redstone clocks is that when you turn them on, you actually get a redstone output which is rapid until you turn them back off again. Now, this is really, really useful and really, really basic. Just look at these designs. I mean, how easy can it get? And I actually don't know why I didn't show you guys this earlier, but I guess they didn't fall into the other video types. Now, I actually forgot to mention how the video is going to work in the first half. So basically what's going to happen is that, first of all, I'm going to show you how the contraption actually works as a main. Then I'm going to show you how each design in particular works, because believe it or not, there's a lot of designs to each one of them. After that, I'm going to show you how the designs work, and after that, I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to build them. So one last thing to note before we get into it is that the designs that you're seeing over here for the redstone clock isn't actually all the designs that there are, because a redstone clock can be built in pretty much infinite ways. That's because you can make a lot of ways to make a redstone output which is rapid, and each one of them is a redstone clock. Now, these are the ones you're probably going to be using in redstone contraptions, and probably you're going to be using in your life. So yeah, these are the important ones. And with that being said, let's get on with the tutorials. So starting us off, you have yourself the hopper clock. Now, this is a really easy one to understand. So here you can see you have yourself two hoppers facing into each other, and we have yourself a comparator on the back of it. Now, if you remember from the hopper video, hoppers actually give items to containers, and that actually includes other hoppers. So meaning that this item over here actually will deliver this item to this hopper, and this one will do the same thing. While that's happening, this comparator will detect that and give off redstone outputs. Now, the reason why this is actually not working because I actually turned that off. So if I turn that back on again, you can see the same thing is happening and we get ourselves a nice redstone output which is rapid. Really easy to understand and really easy to build as well. So let's take a look on to how it's built. So first of all, place a hopper down, then crouch down, place another hopper facing into that one, break this one and place another hopper facing into this one while crouching. You can actually understand if it's actually placing into each other by seeing these tails. So after that, place a comparator facing out of any of them, place any item in any of the hoppers, and then you should have yourself a clock. But after that, place a lever on top of it if you want to turn that off. With that being said, you already have yourself a redstone clock which is known as the hopper clock. Really easy to build and really easy to understand as well. But let's say that was a little bit too expensive for you to build in survival mode, or you just want to have more customizable options as a whole, then I just have the perfect thing for you. This is known as a redstone torch clock. Pretty self-explanatory. This relies on a redstone torch, and we have ourselves some repeaters and some redstone dusts. Really cheap items to get in survival mode. So if I just turn it on, this is gonna go on, but I'm gonna explain this. So this listen to my voice. So first things first, this redstone torch is active. This powering this repeater, powering these redstone dusts, powering this repeater going to this block, which is depowering this torch. After a while, this torch repowers, and then the whole loop goes on and on again. Really simple to understand as well again, and really simple to build as well. So while building that, first of all, grab yourself a block, place it down, then place a redstone torch on any side of that block. After that, place a repeater facing out of that redstone torch, which should turn on, then place 2 redstone dusts in a line after that, then place a repeater facing into this one, and then you should have yourself a redstone clock ready to go. So let's place a lever on top of it and turn it on, and then you have yourself a redstone torch clock. The one thing I forgot to mention is that you can actually customize this as much as you want. You can actually, if you want a fast clock, you can actually do this, and you should have the fastest redstone clock using a redstone torch. But let's say if you want a longer delay, you can actually put delay into these repeaters. Or if you want more and more delay, you can actually use multiple repeaters. They should still work. So yeah, really simple to build, customizable, and easy to understand as well. But let's say these aren't the fastest ones in the world, and you actually want the fastest one in the world. So I actually have the perfect thing for you again. So this one is known as a comparator clock. Pretty self-explanatory, one comparator and redstone dust all around it. Really easy to build, but if I just turn this lever on, as you can see, this goes as fast as the human eye can see, because if it went any faster, you actually couldn't practically see it, the red dot turning into black. So yeah, how does this work? Now this has some interesting mechanics going behind them. I'm actually going to try to make you understand them without getting this too complicated. So if you remember from the comparator video a little bit earlier, that you know that a comparator has 3 inputs. Now from here you can see that the main input is actually giving off a signal strength of 15 into this comparator. Now the comparator is giving off a signal strength of 15 again, because remember, comparators actually give off the same signal strength as they're given. So this one's giving off a signal strength of 15, so this one is 14, this one is 13, this one is 12, and 12 is going in, so this one's 11, 10, 9. The cycle goes around and around until they hit 0. And after that happens, this lever is still on, meaning that a signal strength of 15 is still going into this one, and that happens over and over again. So yeah, pretty interesting and easy to build as well. So let's go. Place the comparator down, place redstone dust all around it, and then place your input behind that one, or you can do it on a block. Either one works. And after that, place this comparator into subtract mode, place your input and turn it on. You have yourself a comparator clock. Really fast, relatively easy to build, and really interesting in terms of mechanics. But let's say fast isn't the thing you're going for. In fact, you're actually going for a really slow redstone clock. Then believe it or not, I still have the perfect thing for you. So this one is known as an Ito clock. Now, if you don't know Ito, he's probably the most OG player in the community. He has the longest running survivor world, and he's pretty much the inventor of all modern day gadgets using redstone, and this one is one of them. So here you can see we have ourselves two hoppers facing into each other. It's a comparator on the back of them. Now let's say I put in, for example, let's do 4 items, right? Nah, actually 4 is probably going to be a little bit too short. So 16 items in this hoppers, and they're actually going back and forth. So let's say when this hopper is actually putting the items into this one's detecting that, and this one is powering this piston. Now that's happening on this one here. So when that's happening, this piston actually wants to extend, but it actually can't because this one's extended into its face and there's not room for it to extend. Now that can only happen after this one's retracted, meaning that all the items from this one actually goes into the other one. So yeah, this is really using a lot of smart mechanics and relatively easy to build. So let's get on with the tutorial. I actually forgot to mention that this is actually pretty similar to the hopper clock. So first things first, do the same thing you would do as to a hopper clock. So place 2 hoppers going, my shift is not working. Okay, there we go. So yeah, place 2 hoppers going into each other, then place comparators on the back of both of them, like that. After that, place a block behind both of these comparators, then place a redstone dust, I guess, out of it, like that. Then place 2 sticky pistons facing out of these redstone dusts, and after that, you should grab yourself a redstone block, place it behind any of them, and after that, finally, grab any amount of redstone, sorry, not redstone blocks, any amount of items, anything works, and place it into any of them hoppers, and then you should have yourself an ether clock. Actually, again, forgot to mention, this is also customizable and the most customizable of them all, as in that you can place any amount of redstone items into any of them. But with that being said, we are actually done with redstone clocks. I hope you understood. Let's move on into the next redstone contraption. Okay, I know that the previous section was way longer than it needed to be. There's a lot of unicity that goes into a redstone clock, and I thought that you guys would like it if I went into a little bit more detail. But don't worry, I'm probably going to make up the time for it because the next couple of contraptions don't have nearly as much designs as to them, and they're a little bit more easier to explain. So now we're going to be taking a look at a contraption known as the monostable circuit. Now, what is a monostable circuit? So a monostable circuit, what it basically does is takes a pulse, so basically a button, and it turns it into a one-tick pulse. So let's say we take a wooden button which has a pulse of 15 ticks or 1.5 seconds, and that turns it into 1 tick of delay. So always the output is going to be 1 tick. Now, remember when in the observer video I said that we're going to be using observers a heck of a lot? Yeah, this is basically the start of it, because if you guys remember, the observer actually gives off a 1 tick pulse in itself, so it's basically a monostable circuit within itself. So before we take a look at all the uses of the observers, there's another thing that you have to keep in mind. And monostable circuits, or I should say monostable circuits, are actually divided into 3 groups. So the 3 groups are known as a rising edge monostable, a falling edge monostable, and finally a dual edge monostable. So first of all, let's take a look at the rising edge monostable circuit. It's meaning that when I activate this button on the first half of the second, we should get a 1 tick pulse. So meaning that when I activate this button, as you saw there, as soon as I pressed it, we got ourselves a 1 tick pulse through this redstone lamp. By the way, this redstone lamp is just for output, I guess, understanding's sake. So yeah, you understood that. Pretty simple stuff. So how it worked is basically when this was activated, this observer was pushed into this one, and the observer detected a blocked update, and this was updated. Okay, so now that was pretty simple. Let's get on with the tutorial on how to build it. Block, a sticky piston, observer, and finally with a 1 block gap, you have yourself the output. Now, for the sake of you understanding, I'm going to just put a redstone lamp for demonstration's sake. And after I power this with a pulse, as you can see, it turns into a monostable circuit. Pretty easy stuff to understand. Now moving on, we have ourselves a falling edge monostable, a little bit more advanced. So basically what it does is that it actually flips this over, meaning that when we press this button, nothing's going to happen. But when the button press is going to actually turn off, then we'll get a one-tick pulse. Now this one is looking a little bit wonky because I thought that since the output is here, I actually wanted to keep it consistent throughout all of them. Obviously this could be extended throughout because this is really compact, but yeah, I actually wanted to keep the output in the same place. So if I just press this button, as you can see here, nothing happens, but when the button presses actually over, this redstone lamp lights up. Now what's behind this one? Basically, we are inverting this one. So when we activate the button, this one actually inverts it, meaning that the observer actually gets pulled back into this block. Nothing happens because nothing there. But when the button is actually depressed, I should say, actually re-extends and it goes into this redstone lamp and it gives off a one-tick pulse. Pretty simple stuff as always. Observers are really easy to understand and really useful, as I already said in this episode. So while building it, let's get on with it. Place a block, place a button on any side of it. After that, place a redstone torch on the back of it. Then place a block on top of that redstone torch, like that. And place a sticky piston on front of that on top of that block. Go down one block, you have to do this. After that, place the observer facing down. And after that, you want to place the redstone lamp. After that, you can try it out. Press this, and after that, it should re-extend. Pretty good stuff and pretty simple to understand, but not as simple as this. After the addition of observers, the dual-is monostable circuits were added in one block. An observer as a block is a dual-is monostable circuit. In its complete self, it is a dual-is monostable circuit, meaning that if I press this button, you get yourself an output, and when it depowers, it also gives an output. So you can probably understand a dual-is monostable circuit means that it gives an output on the rising edge and the falling edge, and combine that, we have ourselves a dual-is monostable circuit. Really simple. I don't even think I need to show you that, but there we go. Observer done, output behind it, and a button in front of it. You can also do more stuff with it, like let's say you want to have it through a block, you can just do it that way. If I put a button there, still works because this repeater detects this button push. But yeah, that was pretty much monostable circuit. As I say, observers are really powerful, and with the addition of them, monostable circuits, piece of cake, sorry. Anyways, moving on to the next redstone contraption. The next up on our list, we have ourselves the T flip-flop, and to be completely honest with you, if you ever do redstone, this is probably going to be useless to you because basically what it does is turn a button into a lever. So let's say I press this button, after the mechanism does its stuff, we get ourselves a constant output coming out from a button. Now, to be completely honest with you, if you ever do redstone, the aesthetics should never be your priority because the redstone isn't meant to be pretty or is the most prettiest thing in the world. The main thing you should focus on is to get the function running. So yeah, this is probably not going to be too useful in creative mode building, but however, that being said though, you might want to learn this because in survival mode, to make your builds pretty, yeah, this might come in handy. So also, one more thing to note is that I'm not going to be showing more than one design for this thing because first of all, this is not going to be the most useful thing in the world, as I've already said. And second is that only other design that I could find is really complicated. It uses locking repeaters, which I did show you guys how that worked, but yeah, we don't need to bring that back because that's really complicated. Let's get on with the design. So pay close attention to this because this might get a little bit confusing. So first things first, you want to place a dropper facing upwards, then crouch down and place another dropper facing across. The face should be this way. And then you want to place another dropper facing into this one. You can't actually check that one, but I guess you have to run it. After that, you want to place a hopper crouching down and facing into this dropper right here. After that, you can run an input into this one. Now, it necessarily doesn't need to be like directly on this one. You can also do a repeater, then do it. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do it on there. After that, you want to have a comparator on the back of this dropper. And actually, I actually forgot to mention that this one relies on items, right? So an item will go around and give you signals. So you want to have an item in one of them. But you see, as I've already discussed before on the channel, an item actually doesn't give off too much redstone signal. So basically what you want to do is after this comparator, you want to have a repeater, then you can take your redstone signal from that. And as you can see, if I press this button, you'll get a constant redstone signal. Pretty nice and easy, and probably not going to be that useful. But anyways, moving on to the last and final redstone contraption. The final one that we have on our list is the RS no-laches. Now the RS no-laches is actually dependent on logic gates, but I actually didn't mention them in the logic gates video because that might have been a little bit too confusing. So basically what they are is that you have to press the correct button at the correct time. So meaning that if I wanted to switch this signal over into off, I guess, and that this one to on, I would have to press this button over here. But let's say I don't do that and I press the wrong button over here, nothing happens. But let's say if I do press this button, the signal switches over, and now if I want to switch it over again, I have to press this button over here, and vice versa. You get the idea. This is useful for if you want to make a mini game where someone has to press a certain button at a certain time. Yeah, this is going to be useful for that. So now that you have heard what it is, now on to how it works. Basically what happens is when you press I guess this button over here, it toggles over to off, and this depowers this one, repowering this one, and while this is repowered, it turns this one off as fast as possible, meaning that when this depowers, meaning that when this will turn on, it actually can't because this has already blocked its way and it can't get repowered. Pretty smart solutions, but really, really useful, as you can see over here. Now let's go on with the designs. So the design that you saw a little bit earlier over there, yeah, we're going to start off with those ones. So first of all, to build that one, you want to place a block, you want to place a redstone torch on the side of it, then you want to place a redstone dust in front of that torch, then one to the right, then you want to place a block over there, then you want to place a redstone torch on this block facing this way. This has to be on this one. After that, you want to place 2 redstone dust going into these two, and want to place 2 buttons on both of them. After you place one of them, you can see the same thing happens over and over again. But let's say you want to build the easier one that you saw over here. Now this is a really, really easier one version of that one. So yeah, let's just get on with the design. It's pretty much the same logic as that one. So to build this one, you actually have to first of all place a block down, place a button on the side of it, then place a dropper facing upwards, like that. Then you have to place 2 temporary blocks like that, break the middle one, then crouch. You don't have to crouch down, but you could, and then place a dropper on that block facing downwards. You don't have to break that temporary block, then place a button on top of it, place any item in any of the droppers, and after that you want to just place a block on the bottom one, if I can, that is, like that. Then finally you want to place a comparator facing out from the top one. And after that, if you press, let's say this one, the signal will toggle over. But if you press this one again, it really does not work. And that was pretty much it for this video. Let me just check again if I missed anyone. I mean, why wouldn't I? Actually missed out on one of the more important ones. So yeah, so the final one of this video is actually this one. This is a pulse extender. So basically, the name actually explains what it does. It extends out the pulse. So here we can see we have ourselves 2 comparators facing both ways, and we have some redstone dust connecting into each other. If I press this button, you will see that after the button stops, we get ourselves some more pulses going through these comparators. Now, how does this one work? So this one actually kind of depends on the comparator clock over there. I don't know if you can see that. So basically what happens is that this redstone dust actually powers this one. So meaning that it gets the signal strength of 15. This is 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. You get the idea. It slowly goes down in a cycle, and at the end of it, you get ourselves no redstone signal. And that is actually more than a wooden button can produce. So yeah, pretty simple. Let's get on with the tutorial. So to build this thing, all that you need is to place 2 redstone dust, then place a comparator facing this way, then place another redstone dust, then place another redstone dust, place a comparator facing the other way, and then you're done. Pretty nice and simple. Actually, probably that one I'm not going to take any risks. So yeah, pretty simple, and gives you a nice pulse. But wait, that's actually the main design done, because you see, pulse extenders are a topic that yeah, are subjective to what you want. So if you don't want to build any of this, you could actually take a lot of repeaters and just place them like, you know, facing into each other, because that will still delay the pulse. But as you can see here, yeah, this is a lot more controllable, but takes up a lot more space, and this is known as a classic one. So yeah, I thought I would share this with you. And actually, one more pulse extender that actually exists is this one over here. So this can be actually used as a clock and a pulse extender at the same time. So what you actually need to do is place a lot of items into this one, and it will slowly decrease. But with that being said though, guys, I hope you enjoyed, because that was every single main mini redstone contraption that you need to know if you want to do pro redstone things. I hope you enjoyed every single one of them. This was a lot long-winded than I would expect, and I had to do a lot of cuts because I thought I was talking a little bit too much, and after doing a lot of cuts for every single one of them, yeah, I came to a decision that this is probably the smallest one. So yeah, I really hope that you understood all of that and enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to stick out for more episodes of this series or for videos from me in general, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. With that being said though, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.